أعطي الكلمة الآن.
I now give the floor to His Excellency Sayyid Badr bin Hamad bin Hamud Al Busaidi, Foreign Minister of Oman. Your Excellency, President of the 80th session of the General Assembly, distinguished heads and members of delegations, esteemed participants. The international community is today confronted with a broad spectrum of critical issues that weigh heavily on the human conscience. They require genuine cooperation and collective responsibility to be addressed effectively. The Sultanate of Oman has repeatedly expressed its vision and clear positions on these matters. Foremost among them, the climate crisis and the imperative of transitioning to clean energy sources, in addition to the call for seizing emerging opportunities in trade and sustainable development. However, there remains another human and political issue, deeply painful and enduring, that must take precedence in our deliberations and decisions. And that is the Palestinian question. For too long, this conflict has persisted. The suffering has grown unbearable, and the time has come to end the occupation, to undo the injustice, and to restore the legitimate rights of the Palestinian people through the implementation of the two-state solution, which is the only just and viable path toward a lasting and comprehensive peace that ends decades of conflict and deprivation. The Sultanate of Oman is convinced that just peace is a fundamental pillar for sustainable security, stability, and development. From this perspective, the establishment of an independent Palestinian state with East Jerusalem as its capital must be at the forefront of strategic priorities to bring about a just and lasting peace in the Middle East. Therefore, the recognition of the State of Palestine is the most crucial step in this critical phase of the history of the Palestinian cause. The Sultanate of Oman expresses its deep appreciation to the governments that have taken this step, a step that reinforces respect for international law and aligns with the Charter of the United Nations and Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Recognizing Palestine also reflects the international community's commitment to this two-state solution as outlined in UN resolutions and the outcomes of the two-state solution conference and the New York Declaration under the auspices of the United Nations. Distinguished heads and members of delegations, esteemed delegates, the Sultanate of Oman remains firmly committed to its consistent policy of working toward peace and security in the region. It has a record of notable initiatives and achievements in this regard. It continues to engage constructively with all parties and partners in pursuit of this noble goal for the benefit of all. Today, we celebrate 80 years since the establishment of the United Nations, this global institution that embodies our collective commitment to working together for peace and to settle conflicts through dialogue and peaceful and legal means. Yet, Israel continues to disregard international appeals, refusing to engage in a serious dialogue that would lead to a just and comprehensive solution. Its continued use of force and disregard for reason threaten the credibility of the international system. Therefore, it is our shared responsibility to intensify our efforts and to apply effective pressure to bring Israel to the negotiating table, and to make it clear that the path to peace cannot be forged through dictation or the imposition of a fait accompli, but rather through mutual understanding and respect for international law and the rights of peoples. My country, the Sultanate of Oman, calls upon the international community to adopt measures that limit the Israeli government's ability to continue its policies of genocide, destruction, and illegal occupation of the Palestinian territories, and its ongoing policies of starvation and blockade against the Palestinian people, and the obstruction of humanitarian assistance. From this very podium, we call for a global peaceful campaign to lift the blockade and undo the injustice imposed on the Palestinian people, and to secure their freedom through the establishment of an independent and sovereign Palestinian state. Esteemed delegates, drawing on its principled stances and principles of supporting peace and regional stability, and on its categorical rejection of any violation of state sovereignty, the Sultanate of Oman reaffirms its solidarity with the sisterly state of Qatar, supporting its right to take the dissuasive measures to protect its security and full sovereignty over all its territories. We renew our condemnation of the Israeli aggression against Qatar on the 9th of September of this year. We also renew our condemnation of Israeli aggressions against Iran, Yemen, Syria, and Lebanon. We call for imposing sanctions on Israel in response to its blatant violations of international law and its unlawful encroachments on the sovereignty of states. Distinguished delegates, the international community, particularly the permanent members of the Security Council, must empower the Secretary General to fulfill his mandate in line with the purposes of the UN Charter, particularly in the areas of international peace and security. We must also cooperate with him to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, especially those related to inclusive economic growth, job creation, encouraging innovation, and reinvigorating global partnerships for development, as well as the eradication of poverty and disease, and ensuring food, health, and energy security. The Sultanate of Oman attaches the highest priority to education and health. We recognize them as fundamental rights for all and key pillars of development. We also place high importance on digital transformation, artificial intelligence applications, innovation, industrial development, and strengthening social protection, justice, and job security. Moreover, Oman remains steadfast in its commitment to youth empowerment through education and knowledge. We acknowledge youth as the driving force behind development and innovation and the knowledge-based economy. We continue to work on creating and diversifying opportunities to allow youth to harness their skills and actively contribute to building the future. Esteemed participants, the world today is undergoing one of the most complex and difficult periods in modern history, marked by unprecedented convergence of global political, economic, and humanitarian crises. Amidst these critical circumstances, the international community is clearly unable to make decisive and effective decisions that could help de-escalate conflicts, alleviate human suffering, or address crises from a just and comprehensive perspective. However, and despite these challenges, we believe that the current moment represents a real opportunity to correct course and to renew the foundations of collective international action toward the future of justice and fairness. Let us, in this General Assembly, reaffirm our collective and genuine commitment to international law, international humanitarian law, and the enduring principles of the United Nations Charter. Let us strengthen the role of this international organization and all its subsidiary organs, so it may play a more robust role in maintaining international peace and security, in promoting sustainable development, and fostering a culture of justice, tolerance, and mutual respect. This is the path toward realizing the aspirations of peoples for freedom, prosperity, and a just, stable, and prosperous future. Thank you for your attention. Peace, mercy, and God's blessings be upon you.
はい。